maybe you have an A that you're spending all this time on. You need to know, are they really going to use you if they need it?
That's a good point.
Or are they going to use their friend that you don't even know about? And you're wasting your damn time.
That's a good point.
I'm Rob Neilinger, and we're here today with Michael Orta, right?
Yes, sir.
And you're from Lebanon County, Lebanon specifically?
Yeah,
or?
Lebanon City.
And you're a real estate agent?
I am a real estate agent. I've been an agent for about 4.5 years now, 4 years full-time.
Awesome.
Been living in Central PA since I was in 4th grade, so however old I was, I don't remember, but
Did you grow up in that area then?
I did. I was originally born in the Bronx, so I was born in New York, and then my family moved here around, again, 4th grade. I forget how old I was. But it was a massive culture shock, my friend. I'll tell you that much. I went from, so my father had a business in New York. Okay. He still owns a liquor store. And so that's kind of where I grew up. I grew up like in a really big, heavy city. You know, I was always behind a plexiglass, talking to strangers. And then I moved here to Central PA where I see horse and buggies.
Yeah.
So, you know, big culture shock there.
So
But,
you're 29.
I am.
Were you always, so you just started a couple years ago in real estate. What did you do before that?
So before that, I worked in the family furniture store. Again, when we moved to PA, my stepdad said, hey, I'm going to start a furniture store.
Okay.
And so, like I told you, he kind of threw me in there head first and said, hey, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And I listened. I think where I ended up now has a lot to do with that because I learned entrepreneurship from not only my stepdad, but from my dad, my mom. She owned a beauty salon. So I always had like the parental figure as an entrepreneur, and that's kind of the direction that I took my life on.
Okay. Why real estate?
Why real estate? I saw my dad, like I told you, he was buying rental properties when I was around 18 years old.
Okay.
And so that's how I bought my first one. I said, well, my stepdad's doing it. I got to do it because he's a smart guy. I got to follow him. So I met with an individual when I was 18, and I just sat down in front of him and confidently told him, hey, I want to buy your rental property.
Okay.
I don't know what the heck I was doing.
Okay.
So again, we ended up mutually agreeing that he was going to owner finance it to me. I gave him, I think, like $2,000-3,000 as a down payment.
Awesome.
And then I was able to buy my first rental property. From there, I actually was able to purchase 4 more rental properties the same way.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell me, we were talking a little bit earlier about your first rental property and that $800 check. You thought it was awesome.
It was awesome, yeah.
But what else came with that?
Oh, dude, it was taxes, insurance, repairs, tenants not paying. It started really stacking up on me. And as an 18-year-old, I just had $800 in my hand, and I was like, wow, this is not what I thought it was. So I had to figure it out. It was a tough lesson, but I never lost money on any of my rentals. I always made money. But they were just tough lessons that I had to learn then so that I can more confidently do it now.
So what lessons do you learn from that moving forward? Like if you're buying a rental property now, what do you look for? What do you try to do that's different than what you did then?
So the first thing is actually like analyzing the rental property. I think back then I wanted rentals and I grabbed anything that was available.
Yes.
Obviously, what happened was crazy appreciation right before COVID. So I won on them. But in today's market, if I would have did that, I would have probably been under because I didn't analyze the deal.
Okay.
So it was more or less, hey, here's a rental, I'm going to buy it. Rather than going in through the rental, walking it, understanding, hey, these are the repairs, this is the punch list, how am I going to obtain hard money if that's a direction I wanted to do.
Yep.
So now that I'm more self-conscious about that, so that when I walk through a rental, I understand, hey, these windows need repaired, roof is bad, heating's bad, there's, crack in the sewer line, which one of my rentals experienced that.
Yep.
Shitty situation, no pun intended.
We had an 8-unit last week on a Friday.
Yeah.
That the water main broke, going from the street to the house in a city property.
Yeah.
To an 8-unit. So we scrambled, got John Gleim in there. Big. They knocked at 2 o'clock. At 3 o'clock they were there. They had it fixed by like 7 o'clock that night.
Wow.
Probably an $8,000 bill when you pull a company in that quick, that fast.
Right, yeah.
But our tenants had water.
Yeah, that's bad. Well, just to kind of touch on that topic quick, the one rental property that I bought, my dad called me frantically saying, "Hey, the fire department's outside the rental." I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was just like, yeah, whatever. It's probably just an accident somewhere. And then the tenant called me and said, "Hey, they're here. There's crap in the basement."
Yeah.
So, I put the boots on. I was like, oh, fuck, here we go. So I went to the rental property, and there's my dad running around. He's always a very energetic, hyper individual.
Yeah.
So he was just trying to figure it out and help me out there. I have, no construction, knowledge back in the day.
Yeah.
I've definitely learned a little bit more. But I got there, and I just walked straight down to the basement. And the first thing I saw was crap. So I was like, oh, well, what do? I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So, I remember being in, the basement. It was up to my shins. I guess it was happening for a while, and the tenant...
The sewer line was broke.
Oh, yeah. And the tenant just never told me until it started seeping into the neighbor's apartment.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my goodness. So, needless to say, my dad actually just took care of everything himself.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a handy guy.
I need your dad.
Right. Yeah. He's a good dude. I think, he's helped me out a lot.
So what areas do you look in? So you're in Lebanon. Are you buying city properties in Lebanon, or do you try to buy on the outskirts of Lebanon?
As of right now, I'm focusing on city properties because that's where I feel comfortable in.
Okay.
That's the market that I know. A majority of my real estate business is inner city Lebanon. Okay. So that's where I try and invest in, as well as other local investors as well.
Okay.
My one buddy, Noah Starry, he does a lot of investing in inner city Lebanon. So it's just, again, this is where we grew up. This is where we're comfortable investing our money in.
Are there areas of Lebanon you don't buy in, or do you buy in all areas of Lebanon City?
I think all areas of Lebanon City. I don't think we really set a limit to where we want to buy.
And that's the way I feel. So Carlisle is a small town, and I love all of Carlisle. It doesn't matter what street. I mean, back in the day, there might have been some bad streets, but not anymore. It's really gotten good.
Agreed. And again, from where I came from, people say, oh, Lebanon's the hood. Dude, you guys do not know what the hood is. You know what I mean? I grew up in the Bronx, and the people that I was speaking to behind that plexiglass, those were not good people. Yeah. So good thing there was a plexiglass, right?
Yeah.
But again, I see Lebanon City, man, as just my hometown. So,
nice.
When I started real estate, my first listing, I was having struggle selling it, and it was for like $76,000, just shy of $80,000.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't selling, right? Our flips now are selling easily from $130 to $150 in Lebanon City.
Wow.
And that house was large, really good shape, and I couldn't sell it. But now a lot of the investors I feel like are coming into Lebanon City. They're seeing the potential and all that stuff. So, they're grabbing up flips, they're grabbing up rentals, and they're just kind of bringing more value to our city.
Wow. Hence
why I feel very comfortable investing into that.
So Carlisle, 15, 20 years ago used to be, like in 2012-ish, I could buy a 2-unit for $35,000. I bought one house for $15,000 in Carlisle.
Yeah.
And it was livable.
Oh, wow.
And I bought like 5 in a row for $25,000 a piece. Now they needed $5,000 to $10,000 worth of work to make them rentable, but the market was just kind of stagnant. It just came out of the major recession, and there was just opportunity in Carlisle, and we just kept attacking it because no one else was buying. So we bought 100 one year.
That's a lot.
Yes.
That's a lot.
Now, the one thing we didn't do was fix our rentals up when we bought it. So that was a little bit of a mistake. Okay. So now when I get a turn and it's $15,000, $20,000, if I would have just fixed it up then, it would have been half the price to fix up completely.
I see what you mean.
So when we buy something now, the first thing I ask my brother or my acquisitions team is, how much is it going to take to get it all fixed up? Right. Now, maybe we'll raise the rent on that tenant and they'll stay and we won't have to do it, but we're still going to have the money sitting to go ahead and fix it all up. And we budget that money up front. We won't buy a place and wait. Say, okay, that's just not the thing. We just don't do that anymore.
I think I now started that. I feel like it's a good habit to do. Well, you know what you're doing. But for me, I feel like that's a good habit to get into because then there's just less risk and less variables in the future, and I can focus on the other deals.
Yes.
So I have a property that's all fixed up. It's in great shape. I give it to a tenant, good tenant, and then we can just focus on the next deal because there should be minimal.
If it needs a roof, we just do the roof. If it needs a furnace or
yeah.
windows, we just go do it. We just budget it all in.
Yep.
When we borrow our money from private money
Yeah.
or lines of credit that we have, and then we go burr it and refinance it later. That's how still I try to buy most of my properties with none of my own money.
Right. I think, and that's where I kind of want to pivot to. I guess the first 2 unit that I bought, I basically fronted all of the money. It was for $67,000. I had, again, my partners with me. We split that. We split the repairs. All in, we're probably just shy of 100, and it's worth about 175.
Okay.
So we're gonna burr that. We're gonna refi the money out, and then we're gonna focus on the flip that we acquired,
Nice.
which should be another home run. And then from there, we're probably gonna, make a connection with a hard money lender just so we can keep scaling the business.
Yep. So I think another thing that you could work on, being that you're kind of new, right? 4 years is kind of new, is private money.
Yeah.
So you're a real estate agent and you're selling. How many houses did you sell this year, or your team sell this year?
We're gonna be just shy of 90.
90.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of people you're coming in contact with on a monthly basis, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you're building a database, and you know all these people. They're the perfect people to ask
Yes, absolutely.
to get your private money lenders. That's a huge.
Oh, okay.
Like if you're selling, sometimes, you're working with high net worth individuals sometimes. Maybe they're buying a $400,000 or $500,000 house. Well, they're always going to ask you what you're doing. And you tell them, well, I'm an investor. Not only am I a real estate agent, but I'm an investor.
Yes.
What does that mean? Well, I use other people's money to invest, and you can usually get money from them at 8% interest. Give them first lien on the house. So if you're buying the house all in,
I see what you mean.
let's say you buy a house for 80, you need $20,000 to fix it up. So that private investor will give you $100,000 at 8% interest, and it cash flows great because you're renting it out for $1,300 or $1,400.
Right.
You're all in for $100.
Yeah, yeah.
You get the tenant in there for $1,300, $1,400 a month, and then a year later you go to the bank, Bank of Landisburg or whatever local banks in your area, get them to refi it out. Just make sure the numbers work.
For sure. Yeah.
That's how I do it over and over.
It helps that my partners are accountants, so like, I let him handle all of the numbers. I'm not a numbers guy.
Okay.
I'm more or less just a hands-on guy. I like to try and find deals. I like to try and just get creative with it.
Yep.
And then I present it to them. Say, hey, you do your thing, and then we review it. And then if it makes sense, it makes sense. If not, then we try and.
Although I will tell you, it's not really. So you have your rent, right? That's your income, and you subtract off your expenses. So you just need to figure out what your debt service is,
right?
Minus taxes, minus insurance.
Yeah.
So it's really not.
It's not that bad.
If I can do it, I think anybody can.
I can figure it out.
I've even got my brother back there doing it, and he's dyslexic, and he can do it.
That makes sense.
So.
That makes sense. Compliment.
But you'll see in our property meeting. We'll have a lot of fun there.
Good stuff.
But I think using private money from people, and we are doing that. One of the guys I think we had $1.5 million, $2 million of his money back then into deals.
Wow.
And we met him because my brother was showing this one guy houses, and they were using him as a private money guy, and he stopped buying. So then Mike went in and asked him, hey, can we buy the way this guy's been buying with you?
Yeah.
And his guy's name is Denny, and Denny said yes.
Very cool.
So we got our first private money lender back then.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And he financed a ton of properties.
Yeah.
I went to him one day and said, are we buying too many? And he looks at me and says, Rob, you should buy everything you find.
That's good advice.
Because it's never going to happen again. And
Right,
guess what?
right.
He was right. I mean, 2012 was really crazy.
For sure.
I don't think we're going to have those types of drops if whatever we're going into right now.
No, I think inventory is very low, but at the end of the day, lending standards are so tight that they do more due diligence now than what they used to do back in the day.
Correct.
So I don't see there being a massive influx of inventory.
Correct.
Especially with those 3s and 2s, that people are locked in at. They're going to do everything possible
to keep that house,
save their damn house.
And the sheriff sales have to pick up, and we're not seeing any. Yeah. We do 6 counties of sheriff sales, and we are not seeing any. We haven't bought anything in a year from a sheriff sale.
Wow. Okay.
And we used to buy 3 to 5 a month from the sheriff sale.
Yeah.
So how's the real estate market in your area? What are your feelings on the interest rates being around 6 or a little bit more?
Yeah, I think things have definitely slowed down.
Okay.
But we're pretty healthy market for the most part. I think the biggest issue is just inventory. we still have a massive pipeline of buyers, but there's just nothing to buy. So that's kind of what we're running into, whereas, it's easy to make that connection with the consumer, but it's hard to get them into a house because there are no homes available. So that's kind of what we're running into. Lebanon overall, the value's there. Like I told you, when I started compared to where we're at now, crazy appreciation for a property of basically 2x almost in the city.
Yeah.
I mean...
And you're not seeing it coming down at all at this moment?
I don't think it'll come down necessarily. I think it does need to cool off a little bit. I think, we experienced aggressive growth in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
And that's just unhealthy overall for a real estate market. So I think we might experience a little bit of a cool off, but the opportunity is there in Lebanon City. We just got a Target. We just had Starbucks, Chipotle.
Oh, nice.
So those are all things that in just a short 2-3 years ago, we didn't think we would have. Yeah. So for those big companies to recognize Lebanon City and to want to put their businesses there, I feel like that means a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I recognize that.
Well, I can only really judge the market off of some of our stuff. Mm-hmm. I know I had a new build that was $500,000. Mm-hmm. It sat a little bit longer than I would have liked, maybe 30, 40 days. Right. But we did get a full price offer on it finally.
There you go.
I listed a flip for $450,000 in Camp Hill, Cedar Cliff School District. Mm-hmm. It did take like a week to get it under contract. There wasn't a lot of offers, but we did get a full price offer on that. They still waived inspections.
Nice.
My wife recently got one of her $950,000 listings under contract.
Nice.
This week.
Yeah.
So people say the market's dead right now. It's not. If agents are working.
Think it is, no. You have to work is what it is. All the guys, again, I started a real estate team this year, and we work hard every single day.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a day that we are lax. There's not a day where we're just sitting back complaining, oh, the market's shit. No, we're still on the phones. We're still following up with people. We're still trying to send them what little homes are available. We're still trying to just work the business. I think some people have gotten extremely comfortable with just throwing a sign up, and before you're walking away, you have 20 offers.
Yep.
It's not like that anymore.
No.
You have to actually work. You have to run your comps. You have to make sure your numbers are right. You have to follow up with people.
Yep.
You
got to call your sellers weekly and let them know why the house is not selling. We didn't do that the last 2 years.
No, not at all. I mean, I listed a nice house in Creekside in Lebanon City, which is a nice area.
Okay.
And it took a while to sell. Why? I mean, for starters, we started a little too high, but it wasn't that high. I mean, if we would have listed that back in COVID, it would have flew off the shelf.
Yep.
But, things are definitely slowing down now. So we just have to be a little more self-conscious about that.
So two more examples are, we just listed an 8-unit for $650. Mm-hmm. I got a $640 offer in 7 days. Yeah. I own it myself. Mm-hmm. My wife listed a 2-unit. People really want 2 units, 3 units, and 4 units right now. Yeah. $145,000 in Carlisle, sold in a weekend.
That was a 2-unit?
2-unit. So
nice.
2 units to 4 units are really in high demand. People want to put their money into some assets. Mm-hmm. We've noticed that big time.
Yeah. I've noticed a lot of my past clients are starting to reach out to me to get into real estate investing.
Yep.
They see me doing it. They see my buddy doing it at a much higher level. But it's starting to catch attention. So, there's a lot of local business owners that have money that they want to invest. So, I'm just meeting with them, kind of just teaching them, hey, this is what we're doing. You can also implement it. I'm an open book, so I'm very straightforward. I don't, like fluffing things. If someone's coming at me for advice, then I try and give it to them.
Yep.
As well as Noah as well. He's an open book as well. So, we just try and help the people in our community.
We've been that way here too with people, and I think the key for being an agent is getting listings right now. If you can get the listings, get them to price it right. Mm-hmm. Do you do any pre-inspections on any of your listings?
I do not. No.
We promote. So I was a listing agent for 13 years. Mm-hmm. So I would almost strong arm all of my clients to do a home inspection before we listed it. I would try to force them to do it, because if you could get them to do that home inspection, then we post it right online when we list the house. Mm-hmm. And then, because a lot of times you just get this, the parents don't want to come into until they do the home inspection. They're not at all the showings. They don't know what a good deal was. And then they come into that home inspection and then they're saying, well, why did you buy this house, Johnny? This is crazy. This needs this. Then they're there for 3 hours getting every little thing that really isn't wrong with the house.
No.
And then they go ask for $5,000 worth of repairs. Whereas if we do a home inspection posted online, so every single flip I've ever done in the last 5 years, we do a home inspection posted online with it.
Yeah, I think...
Just to try to get that seller to waive it.
Right, I think that's
buyer.
something... Yeah, so I think that's what we're going to do on our next flip, actually. I was thinking about doing that just to promote ease of mind and just to avoid those little miscellaneous variables. I mean, if something like drastic comes up, it'll be addressed on our part.
That's the way we feel,
But we can do it beforehand rather than scrambling around while you have a buyer in your hands that is a good match for this home.
We make a list. We actually go through it and make like a 10-item list of what we are going to fix.
Yeah.
Because typically we get that home inspection and the next day we're listing it type thing.
Yep.
So then we just put on there what we're going to do. And then a lot of times agents will ask, is it done yet? I said, no, but we'll let you know when it's done.
For sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Being proactive in this market is more like a normal market.
Agreed. Yeah.
And if it's a septic, I'm getting the septic inspection too.
Yeah.
I don't do radon because I'd rather just put the 150 towards putting in a radon system.
True.
That's kind of my
makes
thoughts.
sense.
But I try to make if I'm listing for people, I try to get them to do a home inspection too.
Yeah.
Because there could be mold in the attic that we can address.
Yeah.
We just don't know. And if the house goes back on the market, you're typically going to get a little bit less for the house the second go round.
Most of the time, absolutely.
More times than not, you're going to get less versus more. That's what I found.
Days on the market really kills.
And if I can get as me being a listing agent, if I can get my sellers to go ahead and get that home inspection, it makes my job easier down the road too.
100%. 100%. I would agree with you.
There's benefits to my seller and there's benefits to me and my team to make our lives easier.
Right, yeah.
But now if an engineer goes and buys the house, guess what? He's going to inspect that thing.
He's going to find something anyways.
No, he's going to have to do it. He's not going to waive it. If you get an engineer in there, they're not going to waive it. No. They're going to want to go and look at everything.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, that's... So do you have any real estate questions that you have of me or anything that you...
Dude, yeah, kind of a lot. I mean, I don't know how much time we
Well, we could just ask one. if you had any big ones, one or two that maybe could help somebody else out, right?
For sure.
We could hit everything after the fact, but...
So I started my real estate team this year.
Yeah.
Right? I think the first thing I realized, I grew up as an entrepreneur. I worked in most of my family businesses growing up. But the one thing that I picked up, which was a bad habit, is not knowing how to structure a business.
Okay.
And I quickly realized that, and I humbled myself. I reached out to get help. I hired a coach. So I did all the right things to kind of help pivot myself, and just rather than, implementing the bad habits that I picked up from, my parents, not knowing how to structure a business properly. Yes. I want to learn how to do that so I don't crumble. Okay. I want to build that solid foundation. So if you were to say, I don't know, let's say like top 3 tips in regards to how to properly structure a real estate team, what would you say those look like? I would,
so my first, I'm big on, so I would have a cash reserve of like I wouldn't be starting a team if I didn't have any cash saved.
Yep.
If you said, Rob, if you have $5,000 or $10,000, I wouldn't start a team. I wouldn't hire anybody unless I had some cash saved.
Right.
So I don't know what your cash reserve is, but having a cash reserve is key. And anytime you grow your business, more cash.
True.
You don't say, oh, if we grow it, we could make this much more. But if you haven't saved from what you have done, then don't grow. So one thing is cash reserves. Knowing your finances monthly is kind of really important when you're doing a business. The next step is just like knowing which piece do you hire first. You could have agents on your team, but you need who is your key hire. So do you have a key hire that you did hire? Have you hired? Do you have any staff yet on the team?
I had an admin. Since then, I don't now. So I need to find another admin to replace the one that I had. I was going to outsource an ISA, an affordable ISA.
How many agents do you have on your team right now?
I have 2 agents on the team with 2 prospects.
With what?
2 more prospects.
Okay. The first hire for the team would be an admin person that does contract to close and listing coordination. Yeah. Those are the first. So when we were doing 65 million at the top, we had those. We just had those 2. We had 2 people. We had a contract to close person and a listing coordinator. That listing coordinator could jump over and do some other duties. Right. The contract to close can handle up to about 30 files a month.
Right.
if you hire the right person.
Correct.
Now, I will say when we first did this, the first couple of times we hired, we couldn't afford what we really needed.
I get that. Yeah, I understand.
A good contract to close person is about $50,000.
And I think I have a phenomenal, I guess I call it a transaction coordinator. So
Same thing.
I hired a specific transaction coordinator that just does that.
Okay.
Right, and she's available for the team, and we pay her, I think, like $300 a file.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily a high overhead, but it saves us a buck ton of time, so we can focus on generating more business and keep feeding the funnel.
I've never been one to hire somebody per file or those kinds of things. I always hired somebody that was on my team full time.
Okay.
So they were in my office. They were doing what I needed to be done.
Right.
So number one, if your team isn't busy enough to handle a full-time contract to close, because if you're not doing 30 files, because that's what a full-time one can do is 30 files a month.
Yep.
If they're not doing that, they can do whatever closings you are doing per month. They can also handle your listing paperwork.
Yeah.
And they can also be your assistant.
Right.
All in one. That's the way that we worked it. And then once you get too much work for them, then they can break off and just be the contract to close.
Right.
And then you have a listing coordinator that does listings as well. And then you still can pick one of those to be your helper.
Right.
Like do little extra stuff for Michael because you're the owner of the team. If you're the owner of the team, you get that ability. Jill was one of our listing coordinators in the past, and I would always have her do side things for me. And whoever was in the office, hey, I need this. Can you email this contract for me? Can you make this change and do that? I got to the point where I really didn't write contracts if I could help it.
Again, it's a bad habit, but I'm trying to delegate more stuff.
Yes.
Having control has always been what I've been used to, especially for like the first three and a half years of my business. I did everything. I mean, I closed 84 files last year by myself. I only had a TC towards the end of the year, and I only hired an admin towards the end of the year. So it was a lot, and I quickly realized it's not sustainable long term.
No.
So rather than, having that hard crash in my business, let's say year 4 or 5, all right, well, I'm going to hire help, and I'm going to try and start delegating stuff so I can do this long term. I don't want to have like a 5-year streak when I kick ass and then I crumble and I fall over and, my health goes to shit.
Yep.
I want to try and, be in the business long term. So having those key individuals in place, it was really important for me, and I'm glad I realized that because it definitely helped me this year. I feel like I worked a little bit less, but I accomplished a lot more, and I feel like that was kind of the overall goal for this year.
And so I would say early on we've hired people that weren't up to par because that's all we could afford. Back then it was $8 an hour because that's what minimum wage was, 15 years ago.
Right.
Right now, a good contract to close or a very good admin is between probably $45,000 to $50,000, and that's probably the same for your area as well. And we have a listing person and a contract to close right now. We have both in our team. But I really don't know as if we did the inside sales things for a while too, and I just don't know. Like I've been back and forth on that. I think it's going to take a full-time person to manage that person, to get them in the right. I've just learned recently that you can have really, really good inside salespersons, but you have to structure that. I mean, they're $12 an hour, $200 a deal that closes, and maybe an appointment of $25. But you can build a really good person, but it also is a full-time job managing that person.
Agreed.
So you have to watch that too, because you don't want to stop selling to go help manage a person, and then
No.
you just have all
defeats
that.
the purpose.
I would watch the ISA. I would get an admin helping, and then you just keep performing, getting your team to perform as well.
I think the purpose of the ISA that I wanted is more or less just an actual human follow-up system, because my CRM is really good and autonomous, where it can follow up with an individual via text, email, but that person touch I feel like is always very genuine, whereas hey, so-and-so calls,
I think that needs to be the agent.
That needs to be the agent.
100%.
Okay.
Not even, there's no way.
No ISA.
You don't need an ISA, just the agent. The agent needs to build their database, rank their database. We'll go into this off camera. I have a database, I rank it, A, B, C, and D, okay? And I work my database like a bear.
Yeah.
Now, of course, you can use Boomtown and all those things to generate people into your. Those are crappy leads that you can work into your system. And my team does use Boomtown and those things to generate leads, but it's ultimately they need to take those leads and put them into their sphere and start working their sphere. If you rank your sphere A, B, C, and D, what I do is when I have free time, I work my A's. When I have more time, I work my B's, and then down. My A's are people that have referred me.
Right. Those are individual. Like for example, if I refer you someone, that's an A.
Yes.
Okay.
All of my friends, all of my good friends were my A plus. I had so many A's, I had to move to A pluses. And then I had about 20 people in my A pluses, and they were my buddies because I only hang around successful people and people that use me, and likewise I use them. So what we will do is all of my buddies are in those A plus categories. I'm talking to them almost 2-3 times a week.
Right.
When I was working real estate because that was my job.
Yeah.
To call them, go see them.
Yeah.
Now that I'm not selling real estate, I don't get to see my buddies quite as much as I would like to. But that was my job back then. Now my job is to coach and help people within our team. But really building a notes, calls, and Popeyes to that database is how you get business.
Right. Okay.
And you could get a shit ton of business from that.
Yeah, I think like me personally, I was looking over my database and what we closed, and I'm about 74% just organic, more or less. So those A's, I guess A pluses, some B's is more or less what I'm closing constantly.
But your goal is to get your C's and B's so you do less with them. They might get an email from you monthly.
Yep.
But if one of them pops up and he says, "Hey, Michael, I've got this friend of mine that needs a house." Holy shit, they're not a C anymore. They're an A.
They're moving up.
Yeah, and they give me another one, and damn it, they're an A plus.
Yeah.
And that's how, like, the second you work the people that really want to refer you, and you got to get through the crap and make sure that they're, maybe they don't refer you. Maybe you have an A that you're spending all this time on. You need to know, are they really going to use you if they need it?
That's a good point.
Or are they going to use their friend that you don't even know about? And you're wasting your damn time.
That's a good point. Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I didn't go through that.
So mayor campaign, ask them, hey, if you needed a real estate agent or your friend needed a real estate agent, who would you refer them to?
Right. And
if they look at you and say you got your answer. Yeah. If they stutter and stumble and don't say anything, it's okay if you use your friend. I just want to know.
Yeah, yeah.
And if they say, well, yeah, I kind of would use my other friend. Well, boom, they go down to a C, and then now you spend less time with them.
Right. Yeah. I think the systems, I guess, and the processes is something that I'm trying to really fine tune so that we can run more effectively.
Google Brian Buffini. That's the coach you need.
Brian Buffini. Okay.
That's who we did all this from.
I'm gonna write that down.
Notes, calls, and Popeyes.
I'm gonna write that down.
Back then it was $400 a month, and we went to this company, which we're with Home Sale here. They brought Brian Buffini into a seminar over to Lancaster and had us all talk to him.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there, and my brother's like elbowing me. He's like, "We got to do it." I said, "Dude, we don't have $400 a month." He says, "We can't afford not to." He says, "You do it, Rob, and you teach us how to do it." I said, "Okay."
Yeah.
Then before you know it, like 2 years in, we were all paying the $400 a month.
Wow.
My brother Mike and I really followed the system good, and it's really paid off.
Yeah.
Because working that system it's working by referral. There's some of these other systems out there where they just want you to make 100 cold calls a day. That's no fun.
No, and I've yet to make one cold call in my career. I feel like it's not me personally. Am I gonna never not do it? I don't know. I might try it just to say, hey, I've tried it. I don't like it. Not for me. But at this time, I've never done it, and I don't know if I really have the interest in doing it. I'd rather just talk to people that I know, nurture them, get referrals off of them.
That's the Buffini system right there.
And then just have repeat clients off of that.
I wouldn't even stop and see it for sale by owner. Just wouldn't. No. If I knew someone that knew that person, I might call them. But I only worked by referral, and I was busy.
Yeah.
And the busier you get, you work for referrals from those people you're with on a daily basis. And you do your best to generate business.
Yeah, I think for me, the furniture store probably has to do a lot with like those repeat clients, because I've done, since I was a little kid, I've been doing furniture deliveries to probably hundreds, if not thousands, of Hispanic and clients in the city. Yeah. And so a massive amount of my business is Spanish-speaking Hispanics in Lebanon City. Yeah. So what we're trying to do is really nurture those individuals, because we're seeing a lot of repeats and a lot of referrals off of them. Yeah. And most of the time, hey, you're so-and-so son, you did a delivery 2 years ago, or I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I remember you. We want to buy a house. We see you're selling houses.
Awesome.
And then that just kind of trickles along to like, it's like a web.
Yep.
Yeah.
So working by referral is the only way to work in real estate, in my opinion. And that's what I'm teaching our team to do.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing. And they're having good success at it.
Right.
And that's how we did
Makes
it.
sense. Yeah. You don't got to get too creative with it.
Nope.
You just work your sphere. You know people. Just talk to them. Ask for business more or
Yep.
less.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming in today. I got
For
to learn
sure,
a little
man.
bit about you, and
Appreciate
we'll
you.
continue to talk, and we're going to meet a little bit more after this. But
Yeah.
thanks for coming in.
Thanks, brother.